I'd like to call the regular meeting of October 15th, 2019 to order. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? If we can.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Sue, could we please have a reiteration of the executive session?
The board met in executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person and collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of Civil Service Law.
Thank you. Although the past few weeks of school have been short due to the Jewish holidays and Columbus Day, they've proven to be quite busy. Since we met last, we learned of the swastikas that were found in the boys' bathroom and locker room at the middle school, so I just wanted to have a couple minutes to be able to speak about that issue. While anti-Semitic acts such as these are unfortunately not new to Pelham or unfortunately in our surrounding towns, this news was disheartening for us to hear, especially given that their appearance came during the holiest of the Jewish holidays and during a time when the district is more pointedly focused than ever on creating equity and inclusiveness in our schools. The response from our school leadership, community leaders, and religious leaders, as well as the large turnout at last Monday night's meeting, was a reminder to me that all these hateful acts are not Pelham or the Pelham that we aim to be. The feedback from community members at the meeting was a reminder that while our district's heart and effort is in the right place, there's always more work to be done. I really wanted to thank Ms. Sabia, Mr. Llewellyn, and Dr. Champ for the care and concern they gave in addressing the students and community during these past few weeks, and for all who came out last Monday night to be participants in the solution. While we can never control all the hate in this world, we do have a responsibility, as our new strategic plan clearly articulates, to cultivate an empathetic and inclusive and equitable school community that values and encourages respect, voice, and agency for all students. With another cohort of parents and educators having begun cultural competency training last week and a productive parent meeting with Campbell Jones last Monday night, a lot of great work has occurred towards our goals. If you missed the chance to hear from Campbell Jones last week, I hope you'll be able to join us at our board meeting on November 12th for another opportunity to learn about their approach and the district's strategic planning goals for the cultural competency. On quite a separate note, we'll be making decisions about committee assignments this week. If you applied to participate in committee work, you can anticipate hearing back from the district about your placement this week and for committee meetings to kick into high gear very soon. So now we have approval of the minutes 3.1 from September 24th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Section 4, we have the superintendent's report, 4.1.
Great, thank you. And much along the same lines, I do want to thank the community leaders who really came out in support of the district and support of our students, not only in writing, but also who came to so many of the community engagement events, the PTA meetings that were held, and as Jessica mentioned, the parent meeting that we held on Monday. So we very much appreciate them and the parents who came out to be part of Campbell Jones as well. It was certainly a very difficult time for the district and one that has really brought forward how important, as Jessica said, those continued work around cultural competence is for us. We are looking forward to continuing the dialogues that were started there and continuing our efforts as we work to eradicate this kind of hate from our schools and our community. Of course, certainly on the heels of this event in particular, but in alignment with our strategic plan, we are looking very critically at our curriculum, K-12, and trying to find areas that need to be supplemented in the short term as well as in the long term. And I know Ms. Sabia spoke greatly about a number of those efforts, and we'll be looking at all levels to see what additional work that we need to do with our students and teachers in the immediate and long-term horizons. Our Cultural Competence Committee is meeting this week for the first time. Again, under the new strategic plan, they will be the committee that will be overseeing that particular branch of the work from the committee level and as well as the district administration. And we are continuing to roll out our strategic plan over these fall months. So last month, we did our work session on authentic learning. At next board meeting, we'll be looking at the whole child. And then in November, as Jessica said, we'll be doing a work session on cultural competence. In addition to that, we will be reaching out to our community leaders to see how we might partner together on these efforts. Again, having had so many of them reach out and partner in these last couple of weeks has really shown us what a cohesive community we have, and how so many of the issues that we deal with in the school, our community leadership is also dealing with outside in the community. So we're hoping to find some ways that we can partner and make our work more efficient and more aligned, so that this is not just a school approach, but it's a whole community-wide approach to the things that we believe are important as we go through these next few years. And I was going to as well mention the committees. Millie has sent a flurry of emails out this afternoon. So we did send our community notifications. Thanks to everyone who applied. We had so many people apply and such a deep pool of candidates. Unfortunately, we were not able to seat everyone who volunteered. We're incredibly appreciative of everyone who did take the time, and we hope that they will continue to be involved at the school level, even if they were not able to be placed on a district committee at this time. And a couple more specific things. I wanted to recognize and highlight the work of a number of our teachers that partner with the school each year. This year, the Pelham Reads community-wide celebration through stories, literature, art, and film was held anchored around the film Hidden Figures. It's sponsored by the town Pelham Public Library, Friends of the Town of Pelham Public Library, the Picture House, and the Pelham Arts Center. And this year, as I said, the experience was anchored around Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shelterly through a series of events held from October 5th through 18. We were particularly proud that on Wednesday the 9th, there was a mission control and math bee, which was facilitated by Lisa DeSiglio, one of our high school teachers, and one of our high school students, Robbie Shepard. And we heard that their work was incredible and impressive. And on the 10th, there was a Women in Science Challenges and Careers panel discussion, Q&A with some of Pelham's own science superstars. Our particular superstar, Karen Cirillo, a teacher from Prospect Hill, moderated the Pelham. So the panel. So we're very pleased that they can continue to participate and proud of the work that they did with the community. And finally, our usual brag sheet from the high school, a couple short things. It's been 3 weeks, but it's been a very short amount of school days in those weeks, given the various holidays that have occurred in that time. But the National Scholastic Press Association has awarded the 2019 Pelican Yearbook, Living in Color, a first-class rating. So congratulations to last year's yearbook staff on their hard work. And on Saturday, October 5th, the Pelham Memorial High School forensic speech team competed in their first tournament of the season at Stuyvesant High School in Manhattan. Congratulations go to junior Georgia Connolly, who won 5th place in varsity oral interpretation of prose, and senior Nick Lieggi, who won 2nd place in congressional debate. Great start to what will be, I'm sure, an outstanding season for our debate team. That's my report for tonight.
Great. 4.2, Board of Education Committee reports. I don't believe we have any. Oh, we do? Okay. Okay, perfect.
So bond steering met last week on October, I don't know, last week. Nope, 2 weeks ago maybe. Here's my October 2nd.
You met recently.
Wednesday, October 2nd. We met recently. It was our first meeting of the school year, so it was a good chance to get an update from Jim and John about the progress on Hutchinson School and on the Glover Complex. We've heard some updates from Jim at our first couple of board meetings this year about how work is progressing at Glover, and so it's continuing, and we're all in. Everything's going well. Hutchinson was completed successfully and is all prepared for the next stage of work, and that was the main topic of discussion. We were talking about the preparation of bid documents for the new Hutchinson School and for the Pelham, for the high school and middle school renovations and roof work. And also the Prospect Hill work, which the Prospect Hill work is still up at SCD. The construction documents have been submitted and we don't have them approved yet, so we can't go out to bid with that work yet. But we did, the committee did recommend and authorize us to go out to bid for the Hutchinson School and for the middle school, high school work. And so those bids went out October 8th. They're on the street and we're planning to have them out for about a month. And we'll get some numbers back. And at that point, we'll be able to, we're anticipating we'll have Prospect Hill back from the state and it will be able to go out to bid. And hopefully we will have a period of time where they overlap and we have all the information at once. And the committee will be able to review what real numbers we're getting in at that time. We did spend a little bit of time reviewing the contract document estimates that were provided by Triton and by the architect, KG&D, and discussed where those were relative to each other and are looking forward to getting the real numbers in so we really actually know where we stand. But so far, we stand favorably against the bond with the work that we've done so far. And we also identified a couple of key alternative bid strategies that we were going to hold out during the Hutchinson bid that will allow us some flexibility in the award. These are some items that we think can be purchased another way or fundraised for. So those are things that we'll see how they work out in the budget.
I would just like to add that the SED review time has gotten a little longer, which is pushing the Prospect Hill bidding out further than we would have liked. So it would have been ideal to have all those 3 projects go out to bid at the same time. So when we get all the numbers back, we'll have a total picture of where we are relative to the budget. And but it looks like the Prospect Hill number is going to come back later. So we may be, depending on how the other numbers come back, in a position where we may hold those to make sure we know where we are with the Prospect numbers. So if you remember, Prospect was over budget. We added a lot of scope to that during the design process. So in order to make sure we have money to pay for it, we kind of need to know all the numbers. So I think that was a part of our discussion at that meeting, and just trying to figure out how we can make sure that when we have to pull the trigger on these projects, that we know what's out there.
Yeah, for sure. We want to be sure we have as full a picture as we possibly can. But the first step will be getting the first round of numbers, and maybe we will
Maybe we'll
be lucky.
So
super
surprised.
lucky that we don't have to even really worry too much about the next numbers. But, you know, we're going to look at it all very carefully regardless. So it is just that timing isn't looking to align as perfectly with getting all of everything in our basket at once. So, but we'll figure it out before we commit to anything.
And I will add, since the meeting, we actually got the documents from KG&D. We should be submitting probably by the end of this week for the building permits for the 314 Pelhamdale property.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's a good piece. That's one of the key pieces to get that project moving, so that we can be moving some offices out of here by the end of the spring to then pave the way for the middle school, high school
Probably
renovation.
something that the committee should make a report on, what the scope of work is going to be. And
Right,
because I've had people ask me about, well, what's going to happen with the yard?
right.
And you know, when are we going to be able to turn that back into a playground? So, you know, we need to review that, I think.
Yeah, Mrs. Wilson, the principal at Colonial, has a small subgroup of the PTA that she's starting to meet with to brainstorm some ideas on that. We can bring some information back to the next bond steering on that.
Yeah, that'd be
Because we
great.
will have submitted by that point,
And for the board as well.
for sure.
Any other committee reports? I know we have a policy, so we'll get to that in that section. Okay, so that's 4.3, Assistant Superintendent's update on authentic learning.
Sure. Good evening. So next Tuesday night, we have a team of teachers, administrators, and professional development personnel working on presenting an ELA and math parent night. That's at the elementary school. That will be at 7 p.m. at Colonial School. So hopefully you can attend. It's usually interactive, and it's not just here, Stan, this is the curriculum. It's getting the teachers and having the teachers work with students and also with their parents on learning the different skills which are needed as the kids progress with literacy and math at the elementary level. So we invite you to come join us. We have, I know there was a question, I believe, about the secondary schools changed the interim report cards. And when I inquired with the principals, I know they also sent a note home, and really I think it had to do with the timing of it with the holidays and kind of missing the mark a little bit. I think that's pretty much the gist of it, and that they will make sure that when we create the calendar next year, to take into account the days that we have off, making sure we have enough data to really address and understand student progress to a certain point. So we will make a better effort on that side. In the agenda tonight is something called Schedule E, and if you're new to us on the board, that usually happens, well, it doesn't usually, it happens twice a year. And in essence, by contract, teachers can reclassify based on the number of coursework credits they do. They have to have it complete in the fall semester by September 1st, and then give us that information to confirm that they have the number of credits, whether in-service or graduate credits, by the 24th of September. It happens again in February. By February 1st, they have to give us those credits. We have to review it, and then by the 28th, we'll have an idea of which teachers can move along on the pay scale, and it's retroactive to those dates. In the fall, September 1st, and then in the spring semester back to February 1st. And it's not, to be honest with you, with a notice in this district, and it's different in every school district, it's not that easy to kind of move along the pay scale. There is, there's certain conditions. You have to be in the district beyond your master's to move to the next lane. You have to be here 3 years. So there's definitely a line of conditions. If you want to move then beyond your master's 15 credits, you have to be here at least 4 years, and then so on and so forth. It's pretty much outlined in the contract. It is something that kind of controls that movement, but every time teachers do move, it's in these 15 credit increments, and within those 15 credits, at least 9 of those credits have to be graduate level coursework, not just in-service coursework. And also, none of that coursework can happen during the school day or school hours, because that's considered kind of double dipping in a sense, nor can we be paying for that. So there are a lot of conditions which are set up, and that's pretty much reviewed and monitored by my secretary, but also in my office. And lastly, I'm part of the Lower Hunsford Council of School Personnel Administrators, and in line with our work with, making sure that we have a diverse candidate pool, I brought it to their attention that perhaps the council could really sponsor a career fair in the spring. And BOCES used to do this about 15, 20 years ago. It used to be called like a minority recruitment fair. Anyone can go. It's really not specific towards anyone, but just to attract the best quality candidates that we can in the region. And apparently they voted me to oversee it and to spearhead it for the council. So I'll be kind of coordinated. Yeah, open my mouth, and that's what happens. So I'm the guy that raised the hand. So, but I will be working with members and personnel administrators throughout the region and seeing if we can pull together, and hopefully we can do this really after the new year. That's when we really kind of understand who's retiring, budget-wise, who we can hire, and see if we can either have it in a school district or even one of the, the halls in a hotel that's local, make a big to-do about it, get as much advertisement as possible. And usually on a Saturday, you have administrators, we kind of like a little schedule who shows up, and we interview people as they walk in. And in essence, if there's someone that we meet, we look at the resume, there may be a side room where we can kind of meet with them even further, learn a little bit more about them, and see if there's a match and there's a fit. It's been very successful. I believe in the last one I was involved with that I saw regionally, maybe 2004, right? So it's really been that long, and then it kind of fell by the wayside. So I think that's something our region does need. I see it in other places. I think it'd be excellent if we were one of the leaders of that experience.
Thank you.
Sure.
4.4, Assistant Superintendent update on the whole child.
So as Dr. Cham did mention before, the whole child work session, on the goal, the work session will take place at the next board meeting. The body that's going to oversee the whole child goal will be the Wellness Committee and the MTSS Committee. And we're gonna be starting the meetings this week. So we'll have the wellness on Thursday and then MTSS meeting starting next week. This time of the year is when school counseling department is very busy with a lot of different things going on. We have tomorrow on the 16th, Senior College Planning Seminar, which is a half-day event that includes stress management, which is very important. Tomorrow is also at the same time.
Makes me nervous just thinking about it.
We also have PSAT exams for sophomores and juniors. On the 21st of October, we have Pelham and Eastchester Fall College Fair from 7 to 8:30 in the Pelham Middle School gym. And we'll have 79 colleges and universities represented that night. On the 21st of October, let's see, oh, it's the same thing, sorry. On the 30th of October, we have financial aid night in the middle school library. We have Mr. Michael Turner from Higher Education Services Corporation, who's going to really provide some insight regarding financial aid process for our seniors. And during the last 3 weeks, between September 25th and today, we had close to 50 colleges visit. So our students are getting a lot of opportunities to get to see what's out there. And it's always important to know what type of colleges are out there so you can really find the right match. So, thank you.
That we get to host the college fair.
Can I ask you,
Yes.
is there a list someplace that people could see which colleges will be there on Monday?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me find out from Jean. Yep.
I feel like there has been in the past,
Yeah,
but
there usually
I don't know
is.
where that has been.
I would guess guidance office or main office announcements, but that's just a guess.
It's a 79. It's a big announcement.
Yeah, so
I know
Julia
there
will
was,
get us
I
that.
know for last year's meeting, there was a list.
Okay.
It was like a flyer.
It was at Eastchester
Oh,
last
for
It was
the,
year.
at
you mean for
Eastchester.
the college fair itself?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah,
yeah.
Last year it was at Eastchester and there was a flyer
There
that
was.
listed
I was gonna say,
everything.
there's often a
Okay.
flyer or brochure or something.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Julia will find that. I can forward that information in the weekly update.
Is that through Beth? No.
I think it's just direct
Just
partnership
Pelham
at
and
this
Eastchester.
point. It may have originally been, but a lot of the BEPT things have kind of,
Gone by the wayside.
yeah, but that's one I think that both districts have been pretty committed to.
It's great exposure for our district to have all these colleges and universities here
Absolutely.
for a college fair. I know so many come through the office, but to have them all here for that event is nice.
Yes.
Okay, 4.5, Assistant Superintendent's update on finance and facilities.
Hi, good evening, and thank you. After I speak, we're going to go right into the policy and governance section of the meeting, and the first thing we're going to talk about is the purchasing policy. It's a first reading. If it feels a little bit like deja vu all over again, it is. The board did approve the current purchasing policy that we have back in September, and our regulations require that we have to look at it every year, so that's why we have that. And the policy committee, we will be going through some others that we have as well every year, especially one with the audit committee. Tonight's meeting agenda, we also have an item. We're asking the board to approve the corrective action plan. This is in response to the management letter, which was part of our annual audit, which was approved by the board at the September 10th meeting. Based on New York State Ed regulations, we have 90 days from the time the board submits from the time the board accepts the management letter until we submit a corrective action plan to the Board of to the State Ed Department. This action plan, there were 10 items. Again, there were no major deficiencies really related to control matters, 7 of which were related directly to IT, which was a large focus that we had this year, and that was part of the engagement. When we brought in O'Connor Davies for this year, one of the things they did was they added a specific IT audit item, and I know John Sabalos has already been working on those items, and this corrective action plan is really a work plan for us to work on these items for the upcoming year. So we have the finding as you look at the corrective action plan and what our response is to that and how we're going to be working to resolve it. And that corrective action plan will be submitted to the state, as I said, and it's also placed on our website. So we put a lot of visibility on it. It's an important document, and it's also been reviewed by our audit committee. They've also had a chance to look at it as well. There's also another item, which is a good item in that we get some federal funding. It's a flow-through of some federal funds for IDEA grants, 611 and 619, which nobody would have any idea what they're for. IDEA stands for Individuals with Disability. I wrote this down. Education Act, thank you. 611 and 612 are for students between the ages of 3 and 5 and 3 and 21. As a district, we receive about $550,000 a year. And what we do is we use these dollars to provide educational services to our students that we're unable to provide all of those educational services for in district. We have agreements with all of those outside providers, and that's what we're asking the board to approve this evening. We're disposing of some equipment. Some football sleds and 3 old copiers, which are about 10 years old. They will be placed on our website, actually through the Auctions International website. So anybody who's looking for a surplus football sled, 1, 2, or 3 person, it's a great way to get out some aggression. And or you could just take it down the street and scrap it. But anyway, by the time they reach that point, they're really at the scrap heap. Also, we have a donation. This is an annual donation from the Siwanoy School. They have an annual book club celebration. Kids have a birthday. Their parents can donate a book. It's inscribed with the child's name. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Kids love seeing their names. They can go to gets them excited about going to the library. Again, I always say it, and I'm happy to repeat it. Wonderful generosity from the community and donations from in every which way, from book clubs to the PEF. It's very impressive. And then lastly, with our Schedule C, we're saying farewell to 2 of our monitors. Although with special education, we are currently interviewing some folks for some monitor positions, and we also need to backfill some positions. We would expect some in the near future. Capital construction update. Hutchinson Elementary School went out to bid, so that's out on the street for the middle school, high school work. That's out at bid. At Hutchinson, you may see a little bit of work related to the sidewalk shed, just with the additional traffic around the building, not because of any change of circumstances. We're just going to add some additional protection. So if you see that happening, it's just to be super careful. And it was recommended from our architect, Diane Case. So we want to follow up on that. At our tennis courts, we're at day 15 of the 15-day curing period. So we're going to be putting the playing, not me, vendor will be putting the curing. The curing is done, the playing surface will start going on. You'll see some fencing, some striping. We're going to really get some forward traction there. At the Glover Complex, you'll see these posts that are sticking out. Those monitor any settling that may be happening on the field. So that's a 30-day time period. And that's really done to make sure that the field is stable and we're not going to have a sinking field, kind of like a Co-op City parking lot. And I'm sorry, I can't see the rest of this. Okay, that's exactly it. We have the posts there. Oh, Prospect Hill, I went on the State Education Department. They are right now they're picking up applications from the early part of August, so we're about probably 3 weeks away from when State Ed is going to pick up our application for review. So we got in right towards the end of August. So again, we're about a 3-week time period, and then they'll have that review period once they receive it. So like was mentioned before, we're at a little bit of we fell behind a little bit there.
How many weeks has it been?
It went in, I have 3 dates in August 20th, 23rd, and 27th. So really the last week in August. And they're working on the first week in August right now, or the projects that State Ed just pulled as of this morning.
So it's been about 5 weeks, 6 weeks?
Yeah, yeah.
And they're 3 weeks away?
And we're looking about 3 weeks away from where they are right now, and probably a 2-week review period, 2 to 3 week review period. So again, we were able to look at that information and found out where the state, and like was said before, the queue really cleared out, and then everybody, I think, did the same thing. They said, wow, it looks like the queue was cleared, and they put projects in, and State Ed found themselves in the same situation where they were before.
Well, they decided not to go with the...
At that time they
Expedited
submitted
review.
it, I think the expectation was it would be an equal time for expedited review as it would have been straight through the State Ed Department. Of course, then the queue continued to build. And that's all I have.
Section 5, Policy Monitoring and Governance, first policy of the year. 5.1, policy 5410, purchasing.
So as Jim mentioned, 5410 is our purchasing policy, which is one of two policies that have to be re-approved every year. So we just did this in April, you can see the date, and so here we are, nothing has changed. The policy is really about our purchasing processes and talks a little bit about piggybacking, which allows us to get in on bids that have already been submitted through BOCES. But there's nothing controversial or different about this. So we have this reading, and then the next meeting we'll do the second reading. The other policy that is like this one that has to get approved every year is investments. We were just waiting for the audit committee to meet, and so you'll see that one coming through probably at the next meeting.
When's your next policy meeting?
It's Monday.
Monday.
Meeting Monday. It's very exciting, lots of policies.
I miss all of you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing it.
Yes.
She's doing an excellent job.
Good, good. Pete would be proud. Okay, section, are you that?
That's it,
Yeah.
right? We don't vote on it. You've read it. It's the first reading.
Right.
Carry on.
Okay, section 6, financial reports and motions. You'll be happy to know I'm going to take a consent for 6.1 to 6.5. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Going to take one on its own for the donation. Motion to accept donation 6.6. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the Board of Education and the Superintendent of Pelham, we hereby accept the donation of $3,000 to be used to purchase books for the Siwanoy School Birthday Book Club, which celebrates the students' birthdays by gifting books in their names, and that gratitude be bestowed upon their donor, the Siwanoy School community. As Jim said, that's very kind. Do you guys have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, section 7, 7.1, motion to approve Schedule A. Do I have a motion?
Second.
We have leave of absence, teacher at Columbia Elementary School, and also a modification of a previous appointment of our ELL teacher due to some challenges with Part 154, which is our ELL regulations and providing services to all our kids.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 7.2, motion to approve Schedule B, annual appointments for 2019-2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Just some modifications and some more annual appointments, extra the annual appointments.
Perfect. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section, that was 7.2. 7.3, motion to approve Schedule C, instructional. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Just appointment of substitute teachers.
Any questions or comments?
Yes. We love them all.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 7.4, motion to approve Schedule C, non-instructional staff. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
These are two folks who have resigned, school monitors.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? 7.5, motion to approve Schedule E, instructional. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Just one thing that's curious is that some people sometimes ask, well, where is class 7? Because you jump from class 6 to class 8. For whatever reason, in the contract back in 1982 was the last time this district had class 7. I'm sure that was a negotiated point at some juncture. However, it still has a home on our pay scale. We just don't activate it.
Very good. Any questions or comments in addition to that? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, section 8, People Personnel Services, 8.1, motion to approve Schedule D. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 9, new business. Any new business? Okay. And Section 10, communications and comments from the public. So that brings us to adjournment of the meeting. Section 11.
Madam President, would you entertain a motion to adjourn?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Very nice.
Oh, wow. I was feeling